as always, if you would like to donate, you can donate online. Just go to our HJ's website. And we have a donate button, or if you want to donate specifically to the Fiber-A-Thon, go to ways to give. And there you'll find the Fiber-A-Thon and the information. Or you can call us too. Call us at 678-730-0010. All right, well, I'm disappointed to share that our next presenter that we had lined up is having some car problems, so they're not going to be able to be here for our next session. But I always have a backup plan. So let's go ahead and bring on the HGA staff. And while they do that, I'm going to get us back on Facebook. So go ahead and turn on your cameras. Thank you for being here. And I think we're just waiting. Is Ingrid here? I know Ingrid doesn't have the strongest internet at this time of day, but we're going to bring her on here too. And let me just get this back on Facebook.
I'll be here until with camera on until my internet has problems, and then it's gonna get turned off so I can still listen.
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you move to a rural area. We don't have the best of internet yet, but one day maybe that'll change. But thank you for this. You gave me a chance to get everything back online. And so here we are again in the beginning of the 9th hour of the Fiber-A-Thon. 4 more hours to go. How have you all been enjoying the day?
It's been fun. Got to chat with a few people, listened to a lot of cool stuff. It's been good.
Okay, well, with us, we have Sally Orgren. She is our managing editor. We have Julia Blake, our assistant editor, Mandy Drumming, our program coordinator, and Ingrid Cisco, who is our membership and development manager. And I figured we'd fill this time. I was curious, what are some of your favorite memories from Convergence or moments that stood out to you? And, I know for some of you, you've only been once or twice, but some of you have been for several times. So I'd love to hear what you have to share.
You'd think it'd be easier to think of a thing, but it's also, there's so much going on and there's so much to think about and so much to see and experience and people to meet and to talk with and places to go, and just picking one is hard.
Well, the one that I thought was the most fun at Wichita for me this year was the open portfolio experience, which I had observed in the past, but to see the student work, and we heard a couple of talks about TC2 today, but we had a student, I think was it Anne, who was doing some really innovative things with her portfolio, and it was Judy Harkus who shared her work that ended up with the article that appeared in the most recent Shuttle Spindle and Die Pot. Because when she was showing her work during that portfolio, open portfolio, it was like, oh my gosh, I've seen a lot of tapestry, but I haven't seen anything done quite like this. So that was a really defining moment for me in Wichita.
I think about Milwaukee and the fire. We always say, what's going to go wrong? In Milwaukee, there was a fire. It was underneath I think it was underneath the road, not actually under the building. And we had a fire person come through with a hatchet and said, you need to get everybody out. I was expecting a tornado in Wichita after that. We had come the year after that, and then when we were supposed to be in Knoxville. So.
And how adaptive were some of the instructors? Because some of the leaders just took their classes outside and just kept going.
One classroom moved the Starbucks across the street. Another one went to a food court. Yeah, they adapted right off.
A volunteer and donor went and purchased water and shared that with everyone because it was hot in Milwaukee.
Well, what about you, Julia? This was your first one.
This was my first one as an NHGA employee. I actually was at Milwaukee, but I left right before the fire, so it wasn't me. I can just tell you that much. But yes, Convergence in Wichita was my first as an employee, and I had been with HGA for just over a year at that point. And my favorite part was in being with HGA, and being, the assistant editor for Shuttle Spindle Die Pot, I've been able to communicate with a lot of our membership. And so, I've been able to email and talk to on the phone with a lot of you, and I know your voices and I know your names. But then I got to see your faces, and that was just so very wonderful. I'm a face person, and so just all of that coming together was the absolute best for me. And yeah, just getting to meet people in person, and solidifying those connections was, but hands down, my favorite part. I mean, and all the cool weaving and getting to spy on all the great sessions that were going on that I couldn't take because I was working, but we sacrifice.
Oh, I think this past year too, the most memorable thing for me in the vendor hall was the van, the purple. Yeah.
Yes.
To have a van of yarn, an RV of yarn pull into the vendor hall was like, wow. I think we had the biggest number of participants in the informal fashion show that I've remembered over the last couple years. Was it close to 30, Mandy? And you're still muted, Mandy.
Thank you, Sally. I didn't realize I was still muted. In the informal fashion show, I wasn't, perhaps, yeah, could be. Wasn't, I guess, my favorite, experience I have with Convergence, I guess I kind of have two, well, I guess I have three. One is all the little things added up. I think it's, all the little components make it, the varied components make it a really in-depth, immersive experience. I love working with the people in the exhibits, which is mostly what I do, work together with. I loved my exhibit chairs. I love the volunteers, and that we all work together to put up this, incredible exhibition. Because it's several exhibitions, one, but really the overall work of art. And I really enjoyed that. And then I have to be a little bit biased, but they needed a child model for oh my goodness, Knoxville. Elizabeth reached out for my daughter. She was, gosh, I'd have been 8 at the time, and it was for Annie Toole's coveralls, and I don't think we'll ever forget that experience of walking down the runway with everyone being so supportive of her, the audience, and cheering her on. And she was hoping there'd been another piece to that artwork that, she could have modeled to do as well. But that day, but I think that's, I always had a lasting impression on her. And I thank everyone for that moment as well. So those are my 3 favorites.
That's all you have? That's all you got?
Well, I'm
Gotta
thinking
cover?
you got to tell us what size she'll be next year, because maybe maybe one of us needs to weave something in her size so she can model again in 2026.
Oh, you put that challenge out there, and next thing you know, everything going down the runway is going to be her size, and we're going to have her doing real quick changes.
They were
Good
such
job,
they were
guys.
they were such incredible help setting. I agree. This year I volunteered to help set up the the fashion show in 2006. Let's see, when was it in Rhode Island? 14.
14.
And I was really impressed with the system that was in place. But then when I helped this past year, it was like kicked up a notch for the integrity of the artist's work, and the attention to everything, both incoming and outgoing. And like you said, the volunteers that helped. And it's a phenomenal opportunity to get to be up close to all the different pieces. And between all the different exhibits, roughly how many total pieces did you handle?
Oh goodness, it's like 170. Goodness, I think 170 some, I believe. I think so.
Right. Right.
But yes, yes. And Sally, thank you for, it's a joint effort, absolutely. And you've been so supportive. I thank you all the time. Thank you. Oh,
I
Gigi's got a favorite.
yes.
What
Oh,
did she say?
oh,
Wichita was my first, this is Gigi Matthews, our board member. Wichita was my first convergence, and I was struck by two things: how everyone I met was so nice and so cool to chat with, as everyone is a creative, and how hard the staff worked, how dedicated they were to ensuring that we were able to have such a wonderful gathering. Gigi, that's because you were feeding us coffee the whole time. So thank you for allowing us to do that.
And
Yeah.
Gigi did actually, I did get my sandwich. I think it was last month. We finally got payback. Because one of the things, if you want to make the staff happy, deliver water or food at
Coffee,
various
yes.
times. Because a lot of times we're kind of running around and we don't get a chance to take a break for some of that. So we really, really appreciated that.
Ingrid, what time does your day normally start at Convergence?
I have to be at the registration desk by 7:15 most days. And I would just like to point out that I am not a morning person. I am happy to still be awake at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I don't want to have to wake up to be anywhere for a 7 a.m. start time. So, yes, coffee is the source of all happiness and joy, and the thing upon which my entire personality is based. So, at Convergence, my niceness is at peak, and then my listlessness goes downhill from there. So I apologize to those of you who found me uncaffeinated.
We have really long days at Convergence. I mean, I think for most of us, we're starting at 7 a.m. and then we're going until the last event of the day. And then we wrap up, and that's usually sometime around 10 p.m. And then we have a staff meeting to discuss what went well and what didn't, and what we need to be prepared for the next day, which, it's a long period of time, but I think it's a lot of fun too. And we've got another comment here. Patricia, thank you for sharing. Convergence in Wichita was mind-blowing for me. It was my first time as a vendor. I was able to share rescued waste plant-based fibers and yarns. I appreciate the HGA and your fantastic staff. I'm enjoying today and hope to participate next time. Thank you so much for that, sharing that. And I think everybody on staff likes chocolate.
Yes.
Yes, we all like chocolate.
Yeah.
Ingrid likes dark chocolate. I like,
Darker is better.
yep. All right, so we've got something here in the chat. Barbara, we are ready for you next, and you are in the attendee side. I keep trying to promote you to panelists. So when I do that, we just need you to say yes, and that's going to bring you over so that you can talk about Weft ICAT featuring Cambodian whole and
There she is.
She made it. I know we could have chatted for a long time. If you're here for our staff meetings, we have a good time. We all enjoy working with each other. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to let the staff go ahead and turn off their cameras. And Barbara, thank you for being here. And actually, Julia is going to be our host for the next hour. So
Okay.
Barbara, you can go ahead.
Well, it's so nice to be here. It's a little bit of the twilight zone. We've been having electrical problems and Wi-Fi problems, so we're on a Wi-Fi hotspot. So we're going to see how far we can get with this. But we've been spending a lot of time in Cambodia and Thailand and working with Khmer Ikat. You can see a beautiful piece behind me that I picked up this year while we were there. And what I teach is a simpler form. The Khmer hole is an ikat that's done on a 2-1 twill rather than a lot of people think of ikat as specifically plain wave. So let me see if I can find something here and share the screen with you. As they say, a picture is worth a thousand words. So here we're going to give you a few pictures in a little video of This is when I was in Cambodia and I was getting a lesson on how to tie the weft ikat. This is my friend and now adopted sister Ta. The Cambodians, when they start tying, they are just going to town.
Barbara, are you sharing your screen at this point, or are you still trying to
Yeah,
make
you
that?
should have a video on.
We don't yet.
I don't know what
At
to
the
do.
bottom center of your screen, you should see a share button.
Yeah.
There we go. Something's happening.
Okay, that looks real exciting.
All right, we see your screen. There we go.
We'll go back to the beginning here. It's pretty short. It's only a few minutes. But whole is the Cambodian word for ikat. So we can use either one. We started this journey about 10 years ago on a trip to Cambodia and on a tour to see lotus that didn't work out. I met my friend Ta and she had a loom in the back. And so my sister joke is, because I was sat down and I was playing at her loom and she goes, "Oh, you finally found a job. I guess we'll leave you in Cambodia." But we've made 4, 5, 6 trips back there since then. And we keep making new friends and learning new techniques. In the classes, we do not make the students get on the floor and scrape banana leaves. We do use a synthetic for tying the whole patterns. But some of the Cambodian groups still think that the natural fibers make a better resist than the plastic. Here I am with Ta, and you can see what tiny, tiny resist strands they use. And you can do this with silk. You need a little bit bigger resist bundles I found with other fibers. I thought mine were sort of neat, but she kept telling me, doik, 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 smaller, smaller, smaller. They're very, very precisely done. This is some of the beautifully tied and dyed yarn that's going to be woven. Once the ikat is woven, then the pattern appears. It just looks kind of polka dotted if you look at it before then. We met so many talented people, and here you can see that tying all of the weft ikat is tedious, but then you have to sit there and untie it. The frames are very simple, and they can be done with puppies and children on your lap, and the day goes on. There are a lot of silk weavers still in Cambodia. We weave a lot for entertainment and as a hobby, but I was thinking earlier today, I never met anybody in Cambodia that does this as a hobby. Many of these people are earning their living this way. Many are using natural dyes and doing actually now some tie-dye. I didn't see a lot of tie-dye, but the ikat is technically a form of tie-dye. These beautiful, beautiful colors that they get. And their weaving is very similar to ours, but in some ways it's different. Here they tie string heddles instead of using the metal heddles like we use. So that's one thing that I have not learned to do yet. I did come home with some very fine silk, and I'm going to try weaving some of that very, very fine silk. But if you look here, you can see on these intricate patterns, it takes many, many small steps in the ikat to form those patterns. A lot of bare feet weaving on these looms. So that, if we can. Can you hear me all right?
We sure can.
Okay. We're gonna switch over to some still shots here so you can get a better look at things. The classes were fun at Convergence. People had a good time and some people had some experience, but this is a technique that you can learn as a beginner. And you can tie if you look at this, you can visualize a simple V, and you can picture that when you tie this V and you look at the picture at the bottom and start filling it in, that you're going to get some little V-shaped triangular motifs. And rather than like knitting or crocheting where you have to work one row up and down, you can work this in any order that you want. And these patterns are tied and dyed repeatedly, so that after you've gone through one layer of dyeing, like in this one, we're going to dye the yellow, and then anything that we want to stay yellow is going to be tied over again. And then in the next dye bath, that will not be dyed. Turn that off. Well, we just got our electricity back, so hopefully our Wi-Fi will be better. Just shut that. So this is our piece that had the yellow. The yellow areas were resisted, and then it went into an indigo bath. And eventually ended up being a small pillow. With a little bit of work, you can go from that to doing a little bit more intricate pattern like this, or at least you can understand and appreciate the work that goes into tying and dyeing something like this. The least little bit of ikat, and you really have such a respect for these people that line up all these patterns. And these large pieces are pidans, they're wall hangings. And it's just fascinating that they're able to put these figures, dancing girls and elephants in there. And the patterns do repeat, so they'll go back and forth. So sometimes you'll see where somebody has missed a few rows and an elephant's got a skinnier leg or missing part of a trunk. But a little bit of work and learning to do this really helps you appreciate this work when you look at it. When I first saw it, I basically crawled around and lifted these textiles up. They belong to a friend of mine. This one hangs in my living room, and I look at it very often, and I still think, you know, every little bit of that is just so amazing. But you start off with very simple equipment. You can start wrapping around pegs like this. Mostly you work on a frame. This can be woven, you know, in a simple pattern on a table loom. This is a student at Convergence, and she had a whole pile of ones that she had tied there. Some workshops we just tie, some we tie and dye. So this is a really great workshop. Like we'll be doing one in at MAFA this summer, and it's going to be one where we're going to tie and dye the yarns. But if you don't want to drag a loom, this is where you take the yarns home and then you do the weaving there. We're not going to expect you to do this kind of work that has hundreds of ties. But a pattern like this is something that a beginner is going to be able to understand and be able to accomplish. So HGA has done such a wonderful job for everybody. And, you know, the only way that we're able to learn things from around the world and share it is through a group like this. So I appreciate their efforts and everything they do for all of us.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara. This has been a wonderful presentation, the videos, the photos, all of it. And yeah, definitely check out Barbara's workshops. I've heard very good things. Barbara has also written for Shuttle, Spindle, and Dye Pot magazine, and you can find her most recent article in the fall 2023 issues. So you should definitely check that out. She was talking about her project for Convergence, I believe. So thank you so much, Barbara. We are so pleased to have you. And yes, as Liz said, I'm happy to be your host for the next hour. Good evening, Fiber friends. I've been watching from behind the scenes from the get-go earlier today, and I've just been floored by all of the amazing content. So thank you all for being here, for supporting HGA by making this event happen today. All right. I suppose we should get right back into it and meet our next speaker. So who might that be?
Barbara could stop her share. Beautiful.
There we go. Bye now.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Ingrid. All right. I am excited to introduce Judy Julie Drogsvold this evening because she's here to talk about my favorite fiber, cotton. Julie, tell us all about it.
I'm happy to. Sorry, all of a sudden my background is terrible. Okay, we'll make it.
You look fine. You look great.
Okay, fantastic. Good. Yeah, I'm really excited to get to talk to you guys about cotton. I am actually waiting for a festival to start tomorrow, so you get me while I'm on the road. I'm in East Texas right now teaching cotton. But so I wanted to take this time to talk to people, members of HGA about cotton, but I'm going to kind of sidetrack myself a little bit. And more specifically, I really wanted to talk about how I started down this journey of not only working with cotton, but now teaching cotton. So give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. Maybe. There we go. And I have this. Okay, everybody can see cotton. Fantastic. So cotton, how did cotton kind of start with me? I started spinning some years ago, and in this lovely little picture, I have some cotton that I spun for last year's Spin Together, and I had such a fantastic time. And I would have never had any of these experiences, quite honestly, without guilds. And how did I end up in cotton? I ended up in cotton because of Joan Ruane. She's the beginning and end of that story. And I kind of, you know, sometimes you fall into something and you don't really know what treasure you are having. Well, that was my experience with Joan. I had decided that I wanted to learn how to spin, and I didn't know what to do. And I found a guild, and that guild put me in with a class, a beginner class with an instructor, and she taught me how to spin. And then I found out not that long afterwards that it was Joan Ruane that had taught me how to spin cotton. And that started a whole nother life, quite honestly, for me. Joan never gave up on me. She never stopped me from learning another thing to do. She never said, okay, that's good enough. She has always, always, always pushed me to become a better spinner, to become a better teacher, to become an advocate for fiber arts. And I'm just really so thankful for that, because without her and without guilds, and quite honestly, without the HGA, I would be doing something completely different in my life right now. Instead, I'm, you know, enjoying cotton every single day. When Joan decided that maybe she wanted to semi-retire, which don't worry, everybody, she didn't. She just told me she was going to, and then she did not. So we both are teaching cotton classes now. And so by all means, if you want to take a cotton class, she's going to Ireland. If you would like to go to Ireland in May, you can take Joan's cotton class in Ireland. I will be teaching in the States more, but without her, she came to me and said, okay, I want you to teach cotton. You're good at this. You're a good teacher. I want you to teach other people how to spin cotton, because some people are a little intimidated by cotton. I know nobody here is intimidated by cotton, but some other people might be. And she said, you need to teach at Convergence. And I am not joking. That was the first place she wanted me to teach. And it was the place that she encouraged me, and she made sure I got all my submissions in. And then I had some time to kind of freak out about teaching in Convergence because they accepted me to teach. And I taught in Wichita last year, and I had the best time of my life. I enjoyed being surrounded by hundreds of other fiber artists with all sorts of ideas and talents and skills. And I met some of the most wonderful people who I stay in contact with every day now, because we just share this life and love of fiber. And what would we have if we didn't have HGA? And so that's why I wanted to take these couple moments to not only talk about cotton, but also to talk about what we value. You know, without the organizations that we turn to when we need something, we would be so split. There would be small spaces of fiber guilds, but we have this great like umbrella to keep us all together and all of us moving in the best direction that we can. So a little bit more of cotton here. Um, I love cotton. I love everything it is good for. I am a worsted spinner, so the thinness of cotton is fantastic. I love the colors of cotton that you can work with. There are some great indie dyers of cotton. There's some great indie producers of cotton in the US now. I encourage you all to find them. If you take one of my classes, you will also get to hear me ramble about fiber arts and historical arts and all of the lovely things. I can't wait to tell you about cotton. Uh, I've just been so thankful for my entire journey that really was cemented by Convergence last year. I'm very, very much looking forward to New Orleans next year. I've already got my ideas planned. I've got my whole foodie menu all set to go. I love to travel and I love to eat, and it's going to be really a great time. I hope to see the majority of you there. And I'm really thankful that we have this Fiber-A-Thon. I know I'm running a little short, but I'm really thankful that we have this Fiber-A-Thon to just kind of communicate with each other and be excited for all the things that are still coming up. But oh, let's see, that's me. That's what I've got for you all today.
What a beautiful journey to cotton. Thank you so much for sharing, Julie. It's first of all, it's so wonderful to hear about your relationship with Joan. And that's exactly the kind of supportive fiber community we are trying to foster here. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you being here with us this evening. And we do have a couple minutes. So if anyone has questions, you're welcome to pop them in the chat. I would love to know personally, if you had to pick one best tip that Joan has given you about anything, about teaching, about learning to spin cotton, what would that be? It's a hard one. I'm sorry.
No, that's absolutely okay. Two, because I can't say just one. So I'm going to say two. Like
Good
the
deal.
first one is use your equipment. You find the equipment that's going to work for you, learn how to use your equipment, and then just use it the best of your ability. Find a set of hand carders that you're going to use forever and make them the ones you know how to use. And I love that about her. She's like, just do this. And then the second thing is, I'm sure many of you, if you've taken one of her classes, is she taught me how to card, and she taught me about how to hold fiber. And there's petting the kitty, and there's holding the little baby bird. And those types of analogies in my head stick with me. And I use those to teach others because we're not all the same type of learner. And I know that I really appreciate having that different type of visual or tactile or textual or whatever. She's an amazing teacher.
Those were both really good answers. Debbie Debbie Ellis is asking favorite spinner for cotton. I'm assuming she means
Yeah. So,
type of wheel
that's what's
or spindle.
really amazing about cotton is that there have been entire cultures wrapped around spinning cotton. That one slide I had was literally the old India flag, which had a sharka on it because they put their spinning wheel, because it meant so much to them, onto the flag. So they do love to use a sharka. It's not this, I use the book sharka that's not on the flag. Love the sharka. It's made for it. You don't have to adjust your wheel. That's what it's made for. The Tockley is great to be on the go with, although I don't recommend it for a flight. Kind of a hard metal thing. But then I use my Lendrum and my Falcon Daedalus for cotton daily. So I don't think there's any one thing. It's more about knowing your wheel, how to use it for cotton.
Which just goes back to that first bit of advice, which is get used to what you have and use it well. Thank you so much, Julie. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Julia.
And we hope to see you at Convergence.
I hope to see you there as well.
All righty. So, as soon as we say goodbye to Julie, we will have our next guest speaker, who is Lin Qiqing. And Qiqing is a textile artist based in New York City. She is a former award-winning journalist from China. Qiqing, I believe you are sharing some of your artwork with us today. So welcome, first of all, and please go ahead.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Qiqing. I'm originally from China, and now I live in New York City. I teach weaving at Intertwine Arts, hosting workshops for seniors and people with intellectual disabilities. And our program director, Danalia, she presented earlier today, if any of you were there. First, I want to thank AGA for providing this platform to connect people with the shared passion for fiber. I think this is especially very meaningful for people like me, relatively new to weaving to fiber country. So thank you so much. And could I share my screen? Yeah.
Yes, you should have permission to do so.
Okay. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, it's perfect.
Oh, great. All right. Yeah, I just want to say that I first learned about HEA when I was in school. I studied at the MFA textile program at Parsons from 2021 to 23. And the program would share like information about HEA's grant and exhibition opportunities. That's how I learned about the organization. And in 2024, I worked as a weaving instructor at the Museum of Arts and Design in New York City. So the exhibition is about this fiber artist, Sonia Clark, who makes works using weaving, human hair, combs to talk about American history and race and other like things. So I think it was great that the show and the artist made the efforts to put a loom in the gallery. That's like the space where I worked like 2 days a week to show the museum visitors how the loom works, and they can like try like weaving on this loom. It's actually not like a super easy pattern for the beginners. It's like a linen warp, and we're doing an A-shaft waffle weave. And many people is there like first time, you know, like seeing the loom and also like try weaving on the loom. So it's like a lot of like fun, like talking to visitors. And last year when I was like working in the show, Gigi and Sally who came visit, and then Sally invited me to write an article for the AGA's journal. So this is the article. It was published last fall. And here's more photos of the show. That the picture on the at the bottom is like you can see like people. Oh, I think it's still the editing version, but you can like see like people like trying out the loom, like wearing the shuttle. And another connection that I have with HEA is Textile and Tea. I was there this January. I talked about my practice of making figurative weavings with linen yarn, hand-spun paper yarn, and paper collage. If you're interested, you can like watch the video on HEA's YouTube channel. And so today I'm going to give you just a quick look at my work and process. I use paper a lot in my weaving. It's a little unconventional to weave with paper. I feel like a lot of the knowledge about paper comes from the paper making community, but I also feel like it's one of the like popular alternative choice of materials other than the, you know, like the most common yarn and fiber. Since I guess like paper, it's made from plant fiber, so it's like closely related to the usual like weaving fiber that we use. So I see that there's a natural connection there. So when I was studying in school, like my thesis was about, it was like a series of tapestries of weaving with hand-spun paper yarn. So I got to know a family in Brooklyn who was like moving, and then they have like thousands of books in their basement. And then the family who I was there like collected a lot of dictionaries. In the end, I realized, I found out that dictionary papers is like great for like spinning on the spinning wheel, because usually if it's like just a normal book, like the pages would be either too fragile or too thick. I feel like the new books now will be too thick. But the paper thickness for dictionary, I think there's a term for this kind of paper is called like the Bible paper. So it's like pretty thin but very durable. So it's great for spinning. Here's like a short video showing that how the yarn's forming on the spinning wheel. So just like cut the paper into strips and overlapped it. So just using the friction of the two pieces of paper, and then it will stay together. And then this is the series of tapestries that is double weave. So the white parts that you can like see a little bit of texture is the hand spun paper yarn using the book pages. There are more photos from this series. So it will be one layer of solid plain weave with paper yarn, and then another layer of like loose like tapestry, like kind of random weaving on the surface. This is like a close-up so you can like still see the text from the paper. And then in 2023, I did a residency at the Houston Center for Contemporary Craft. So over there, like I tried more like ways of like, for example, like treating paper in the textile way. I did some like brush dyeing with handmade mulberry paper. And then here is, I use like those paper that's dyed and then cut some like feather shape parts and then have like the core while inserting like those little paper strips. And in the end, it looks like this. So it's like I said, like it's a tapestry, but it's not woven. It's only consists of the vertical warp threads that's hand spun from paper. And here's some more pictures of the paper dyeing process. This is like a process I really enjoy because it's not just giving color to the paper. This is like a kind of dye called the persimmon juice that's used a lot traditionally in China and Japan. So it after marinating the paper for like several times over a week's time, I would like spray the paper with the persimmon juice and then let it dry, crumble it, smooth it out, and repeat. And then in the end, the paper would have a kind of like a rough texture, like it's like almost like a tree bark in the end. So I like that it's also like giving a like the texture that you can see the creases on the paper, and then I can make different shades of brown. And then with this paper, I make like paper collage of like the figures. So I would like pieces the paper together, and then I cut it into strips. This is the loom that I have from the residency that the local Weavers Guild, they're so nice that they let me like all the tools, like the loom and the spinning wheel. So yeah, this is the mini series. This is another piece with a similar process. This one's like a mix of material. So the background is like a linen. Yeah, it's mostly made with linen, and the figures is made with mulberry paper and also some book pages. Like this one, you can see like the black and white squares is from a Chinese chess book. Like that's why it has like these. I find it like very interesting. It's like kind of like a draft for weaving, but actually it's like a chess book. The piece with a similar technique. And these are some like newer works that I recently tried like this dye because I also do like natural dyeing, but like green, it's like pretty hard to get. I tried like indigo dyeing, but it was like so hard. I was like a bit discouraged. And I found out that botanical colors, like maybe it's like a relatively new thing. I don't know. I just like found out that recently they sell like this green dye called chlorophyllin. So it's like a kind of like green natural dye extracted from plants, and it make, you know, like the process, it's like just like one step. You can just put like the dye, like powder in there, and it gives like these like lovely, a bit like blue hued colors. So this is like a collage with paper. And this one also, the blue part is fabric. So now like the collage is getting a bit more complicated in terms of materials, different materials coming in. This one is got some just extra, you know, like warp on the loom. So I made like 2 small pieces. Yeah. Yeah, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Qiqing, your work is just so beautiful, and I find it so interesting, the dictionary paper in particular, just finding that is the perfect spinning medium. So interesting. And
Thank you.
marinating paper, who knew? I didn't. So thank you for educating me today. We have a
Yeah.
lot of comments about your work. People saying that they love your work. It's so amazing, beautiful,
Thank you. So
perfection.
kind.
Someone says, "Oh, I remember Ms. Lin from a Textile and Tea episode. Look it up if you haven't seen it." Yes, Christine, it was a really good Textiles and Tea. I agree with you there. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining us today, for sharing your work. It's inspiring. We've loved having you here. And
Thanks, Julia.
I'm looking to see if there are any questions, but people are just, yeah, lots of hearts.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. All right. Well, when we say goodbye to Qiqing today, as you saw, Qiqing did write a wonderful article for Shuttle Spindle and Dye Pot magazine. And if everyone is still up at 11:15 tonight, Sally Orgren, our editor of Shuttle Spindle Dye Pot, and I will be talking about how to go about submitting a story to the magazine. So, if you're like me and you're very caffeinated right now, tune in then, and you can find out how you too may be able to write for us. All right. Well, our next speaker is fiber artist and educator Beatrice Bonanno, who is here to discuss the impact that weaving has had in her life, both personally and professionally. Please, Bea, take it away. Oh, and you are still,
sorry.
there you are. Hello.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. Okay? I'm not muted. Okay. I really don't do Zooms that much. So thank you for your patience. But I'm really happy to be speaking with all of you and to help benefit HGA. I think it's a really fun way to have lots of different little micro conversations and presentations on really interesting topics for everyone. And yes, I am a fiber artist and educator and professional. Fiber has sort of taken over my life in the best way possible, I feel. I'd say growing up, my mom would sew, make our curtains, make Halloween costumes, things like that, and dresses for herself. So I always felt a bit connected to garment making and making in general. I sort of was just like around sewing enough to be like, oh, I know about sewing and things like that. And, sort of not really knowing how much work and skill and care goes into making something that fits properly, and the thought process behind which fabrics you pick and grain, and even now like where the fibers come from and the meaning behind that. But I'd say that my real fiber journey started in college. I was originally going to study neuropsychology because I'm fascinated by human behavior and emotion and thought and what triggers that in us and our behaviors and interactions. And I was ready to start it, but then I was inspired actually by an article in the New Yorker from their like fashion week issue. And it was an article just about these very successful designers that didn't necessarily come from a family of like a fashion family or a fashion house. And they've made an incredible life for themselves. And it just really inspired me. So I ended up studying textile design at KU at the University of Kansas because there wasn't a fashion program, but that was the closest I could get. And I'm really happy that I went there. I studied under David Brackett and Marianne Jordan, and that program was very free flow. You got a very solid foundation of weaving, screen printing, surface design in general. And then after they kind of gave you those baseline skills, it was sort of just like whatever you were inspired to do, as long as you put in the work, they were very supportive. They were happy to teach you as much as they could if they knew how to do it, and recommend you to other resources if they themselves didn't know how. And I really appreciated and kind of thrived in that freedom. I spent a lot of time doing screen printing. The first semester of my senior work, I was exploring felt in hat making and trying to make my own hat blocks and different hat pieces and just different fits and things like that. And then for my final senior work, I did a collection of wall hangings and pieces on the wall where I screen printed, embroidered, needle felted, and applique lots of layers. And that was really satisfying and fun for me. And then a few years after college, after a few different roles in design work, product development, I decided that I really wanted to embrace my creativity and pursue that as a life as an artist. And so I became a nanny, and I luckily found the most perfect family to work for. The kids went to a Waldorf school. The family were art dealers. So it was a very creative and nurturing space for me. In that time, I ended up studying a bit of handwork teaching classes and the whole philosophy behind why they teach the children how to knit, and so was very inspiring and important to me. It's where I learned to spin. It was a really incredible time for me. And around that time was when I got my first loom at home, and really it was just the classic Harrisville frame loom, and I just played around with it. And then maybe 2 years later, I got a Cricut, and that really opened things up for me. I started doing tapestry, and it sort of just jumped off from there. I ended up working at Yarn Barn of Kansas, which is a pretty iconic place for all of us in this community. And that in itself was like a master's program, business program. I've learned so much. I've learned how to teach really well. It's been a great kind of home base for me, and I'm so appreciative to Susan and Jim and everybody there. So it's a really special place for me. And kind of leaving off that part in my bio, I'd like to do a bit of screen sharing and show a bit from my website, and then just a bit of pictures from my studio work over the past few months. So I'm just going to hop over to Great. So this is my website, and the way I have it set up, this is sort of at the beginning. These are my earliest pieces. So at this time, I was working a lot in traditional weft-faced tapestry. And I still like incorporating beadwork, really textural elements. I did some embroidery on top of this as well. And when I am working, I often find the meaning behind a piece as I'm working. And I sort of realized it's a shipwreck. And these divers are sort of floating up to the top. I don't know why or where this piece came from out of me, but that's what it told me it is. And so that was probably my first tapestry piece that I felt really strongly about. I felt that I found my voice. And it was just really encouraging. I spent several years playing around with tapestry, and then the weft faced started to feel very stagnant to me. It felt very closed off, and I needed some breathing room. So I started playing around with supplemental weft techniques in tapestry. And I really loved this technique because it allows me to use forms and lay them in separately from the background. And I can work, it feels fast and slow at the same time. And I just really found a lot of meaning in this work. I spent about a year playing around with different forms and different applications of these techniques. And actually, right now I'm away from home. I'm in Philadelphia teaching at Weaver House, and I just did a 3-day class teaching this technique, which I really love sharing. Teaching has become a really big part of my artistic practice. It's a really big aspect of gratitude for me. I also find that in my art making, the pieces that I start off intending to give away as a gift end up being some of my favorite ones. And so this was a piece that I made for a friend. It was during lockdown, and she was supposed to get married, and her wedding got canceled, and it was just really heartbreaking. And so the piece is called "We'll Get to Where We're Going," and it's just sort of time flowing through me during that time. And she ended up getting married. She has a baby now. And actually, she and her husband were joking with me one day where they were just like, we're trying to get the baby to sleep, and sometimes we just catch her. She's just staring at this piece and looking at it. And so the impact of that, like being in her life, is really cool. And I just feel really special that like those forms and things will be kind of a formative part in her growing up. So yeah, so this is my website. It's beabonanno.com. There's some of the photographs are professionally taken. A lot of them are just me taking them, laying them out on the floor. And they all have different meanings to me. Things that I try to do in my work, I'm always trying to push myself in some way. So for a while, this first half of this piece, this is the first half of a diptych that I finished recently. It took me 4 years. And the goal behind this was, how many ways can I use the fiber and create form and work with texture? And so these are just little close-ups of different details. And then here, this is the final piece. The screen stop. I want to share the screen. Hang on. Hang on. I'm going to stop the share real quick, and then I want to show the whole piece. There we go. Let's see. There it is. So it ended up being 6 feet by 6 feet essentially. And it is probably, it's so loud. Lots of different ways of using the forms, and I really love it. The piece, the thought behind it is that it's space junk floating together to become a planet. And so it's all these different forms and elements and materials. And I did a lot of measuring to make sure that that kind of purple blob in the background lined up as much as possible. And yeah, so then after finishing that, these are some more detail shots. I am now working on a very quiet tonal one color piece. So yeah.
This has been, thank you for sharing. This is, we've got a lot of comments in the chat just saying, whoa, really reacting positively to your work. Unfortunately, I wish we could go on all day.
I know. I was like, how am I going to
we've met our 10-minute limit, but
we're almost done.
I just wanted to thank you for sharing with us this evening, particularly hearing you speak about, finding meaning as the work is coming together during the process rather than before or after. I think it's such an empowering way to approach a leaving practice. So thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
And I'm going to thank you, Julia, for hosting that hour. I was able to go walk my dog for the first time today, so she appreciated that. And now you're going to go back behind the scenes, and I'm going to give us all an update on where we are. So let's just see where we are on this hour. Okay, we've been doing this for 9 hours now, and the donation total is $7,337. So keep it up. Let's see if we can get that up to $8,000 here in the next hour. If you would like to donate, you can donate online. You can go to our website and find it under Ways to Give. We also have staff on here taking phone calls. So if you would like to call in, you can call in your donation at 678-730-0010.